Hello, guys. This is Seville. I'm your IELTS trainer today, and we'll be starting in 20 minutes' time. I just want to hear whether you can hear me well. Can I have some responses, please, if you can hear me? Can you hear me well, ladies and gentlemen? Let me see. So, Oksana said yes. Natalie from Ukraine. Hello, guys. Alper Toshiba says yes. Wonderful. Alexander, hello. So my sound is good, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is okay with the sound. Perfect. Very good to hear that. So I'm going to mute myself right now, and we'll be talking about the IELTS sponsored by the British Council tonight, and we'll be having a lot of fun. I'll see you in a bit. Thanks for your emails. Thanks for your messages, actually. Sorry. Just arrived in the office. Bye. And I think it's time. So let me go down the list. Okay, perfect. By the way, guys, I just come back from London and I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't even know I could make it today, but I did. I'm very happy. And in the meantime, I prepared my notes. I ready for the show, and I'm here. So, hello everyone. This is Seville. I'm your IELTS trainer today, and welcome to the British Council Success in IELTS seminar. Are you ready? Yes. Perfect. Hello everyone. Hello. And now let me minimize this screen here on my screen. And hello, Diana. Yes, we are, says Alpar. Thank you. Thank you very much for your messages. Now, in today's session, we are going to cover very useful information and top tips about the IELTS exam. I do have a set presentation. And if you have questions, please wait until the end because I might cover the answer to your question somewhere in my presentation. If not, I'm going to give you extra time to fire your questions to me at the very end of the show. All right? Now, let's move on, please. I do not have the control of the presentation, so I'm going to tell my friends to help me. And right, I think we can start. Where am I waiting for? Ladies and gentlemen, IELTS is, of course, the International English Language Testing System, and it's jointly owned by the British Council and 2 other institutions. Let's go. Thank you. Now, what is IELTS? I'm going to start by giving you a brief information about the IELTS test here. IELTS is an international recognized and respected test. It tests your ability to communicate in English language. And as you all know, it's either for work or for study reasons. It is designed to assess your 4 abilities, which are obviously listening, reading, writing, and speaking. IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0, as you all know. And oh yes, of course. Please don't forget, IELTS is an international testing system. All accents are welcome, and there are no cultural or linguistic bias. And I'm skimming the slide. I think I covered all. Yeah, let's move on. Before hello, Savara, and this is Seville. And before I actually start talking about the 4 tests individually, guys, I have a number of slides regarding how the test is run and basic information. So please wait. Probably 5 slides later, max 5, we'll start talking about the 4 tests individually. In some countries, IELTS is not required anymore. Why would not be required? Of course it's required. To study in England, Canada, in America, in the Netherlands, or other parts of Europe, IELTS is always required. And let's see, why choose IELTS now? This is my another brief slide of mine. More than 2 million candidates take the IELTS exam every year, and currently it is the most popular English test in the world. That could also be an answer to the last comment in the chat box. It's recognized over 10,000 institutions around the world. And the accessibility of the test, I truly believe that is one of the advantages for our candidates, since it's available up to 3-4 times a month. And paper-based format, I think, still is an advantage for some of our students. I work for a university as well as the British Council, and most of my students say they're more familiar with paper-based exams, and that's one of the reasons why they prefer the IELTS exam. However, in the UKVI version of the IELTS exam, as you might know, computer IELTS is also available. So this is optional. And as many of you might already know, there are 2 different modules in the IELTS exam. The academic module and the general training module. Now, one of our friends, one of the attendees say, you said that accents are accepted. When I took a mock IELTS test, I had 0.5 points reduced due to my accent. Is that acceptable? No, that is not acceptable. However, there is always an however. However, your pronunciation matters. Doesn't matter what sort of accent you have. You might have a British accent like me. You might speak in an American or in an Australian accent. This is not the issue. But if the examiner cannot understand some of the words because of the way you pronounce them, that's something else. So that half point might have been taken due to your pronunciation features, maybe not solely for your accent. So I cannot make any comments about that. Are there any subjects involved as math? No. IELTS is an English exam. It tests your English and it tests your 4 skills in English, which are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. This webinar will not be watched later on YouTube, but the recording of this show, of tonight's show, will be sent to you by email. Listening materials, you hear, absolutely. In listening materials, you hear a variety of accent. That was considered, absolutely, yeah. Good evening, I have a question. Is it allowed to use any kind of, no dictionaries are allowed. All right, having answered all those questions, I think I can continue. I just said, I remember, this is where I stopped. I've just said there are 2 different modules in IELTS. It's the academic and the general training module. And I think we can move on. Now, hold that thought about the speaking test. Let's talk about this in the speaking test, all right? Because we're not there yet. All right. So, which IELTS test is better for me? All right, guys. Now, let me read the slide briefly. Okay. Now, what I can say is, before deciding which module you'll take, it's always a good idea to check with the receiving organization. I strongly recommend this because different institutions will have, I was going to say might have, but will definitely have different criteria. So check it with the receiving organization. Is it are you taking the IELTS for business reasons? Check it with the company. If you're taking IELTS for academic reasons, then check it with the receiving school. However, I can tell you this with confidence: to further your studies at postgraduate or undergraduate levels, you need to take the academic module. And to further your studies at secondary level or to live in an English-speaking country, you need to take the general training module. Right. And I do have a poll question here. If poll questions are okay on the show, let's go ahead. If not, it's okay. I was going to ask, what module are you interested in taking tonight? Are you here for the academic module or the general training module? Okay, general, academic. Wow, more academic, obviously. But I see the general ones as well, guys. Don't you worry. Okay, academic. Aram says academic. And Nargis, Almira. I'm reading it all, guys. Don't worry. Yulia, Vitalina, Yamilia. Okay. Denise and Marta will definitely much more academic. But guys, since many general exam takers on tonight's show, I'll make sure I'll cover both exams. I mean, I always do, but don't worry, equal amount of time will be spent. And these questions are just to get to know you better. That's all. And at every age, of course, you can take the IELTS whenever you need to take it, obviously. And let's move on to the next slide. I think it was test format, wasn't it? Oh, yes, there we are. Now, oh, guys, sorry, I yawned in the meantime. I just got off a flight, sorry. Now, here, let's talk about the modules in detail. As you can see on the slide, the listening test is the same. Well, look, listening and speaking are in the same color in both modules, right? In purple color. So the reason why they're in the same color is the listening test is in the same format, regardless of whether you're taking the academic or the general training module. The speaking test is also in the same format. However, that does not mean that every single question will be the same. The reading and writing tests on each module are slightly different. I will talk about the differences in detail later in the presentation. And let's not forget to mention the timing of the test. IELTS test takes 2 hours, 44 minutes plus 10 minutes, which will be given to you at the end of the listening section. We'll talk about that too. Listening, speaking, same format, reading, writing, different formats, total amount of time. I think we're done. Right, IELTS 9-band scale. Another brief slide here, guys. As we have already covered, IELTS results range from band scores of 9 to 0. The IELTS 9-band system is used to measure and report scores in a consistent manner. And I need to assure you that examiners are trained in line with globally accepted standards to ensure consistency and equality of their assessments. We won't focus too much on the band scores today, but if you would like to get further information, you can find band descriptors of the IELTS bands on takeielts.britishcouncil.org. Right, now, having talked about the 9-band scale, I'm going to ask you one more question. What is your target score in the IELTS test? 9. Wow, 8 to 9. 9. Minimum 6.5. Cool. A lot of high achievers on tonight's show. Lovely. Wow. Oh, there's Esra is a teacher preparing his students and they require 6 to 6.5. Okay, great. I've seen many people who have managed to get 9, by the way. And they're not teachers. You know. All right, thank you, guys. Good luck, Esra. And how to get 9? Well, a lot of work needed, Elmira. Now, get to know the exam first, like try to understand what is expected of you, what criteria we are expecting. I think it's not very difficult. Who said these guys ain't special? All right, lovely. Okay, guys, the test report form. TRF. By the way, I'm at the university that I work, so now this is a bell. I'm so sorry. It will disturb us once more, I think, during the show. I do apologize. Now, the TRF test report forms, as we refer them. Now, after you take your IELTS exam, you will be sent one personal copy of the test report form. Maximum 5 digital copies of the TRF test report form may be sent to the organizations you're planning to apply. If you require more than 5, it is also possible, but there might be some extra charges. And yes, let's go. Now, finally, okay, guys, we're almost there. Now, I will start talking about the 4 tests individually. But since a lot of people ask how to get 9, what can we do to get a high score, I'm just going to talk. I'm a teacher and I can be very boring if I want to. So I'm going to tell you a few boring things if you don't mind. If you would like to get a good score in IELTS, I think you really need to understand the format of the 4 tests, what is expected of you, and the grading criteria. In other words, how you will be assessed. Now, your job will be much easier if you know these. And before we move on to the next slide and talk about the 4 tests individually, I've got one more question for you. And the question is, what part of the test do you find most difficult? Speaking, writing. Let me see. Writing and speaking are almost always the winners. Yeah, writing, speaking and writing, exactly, Vladimir. Reading is difficult. I know. Writing, speaking, I'm not surprised. I understand you so well. Listening, however, the thing is, Colinesco, if I hope I do pronounce your name properly and well. Listening, now there's YouTube and all these, podcasts. People are exposed to English even more, and of course a TV series. How can I forget? So exposure to English language is like much more than ever, but I know how you feel, because most of my students ask me, Seville, is it okay if I watch TV series? Well, it's okay to enjoy your time, but watching TV series may not help you with the IELTS exam. Like part 3 and 4 in the IELTS exam in listening, they're academic issues, nothing to do with those TV series that you watch, basically. So I have a perfect voice. Oh, you're just being so nice. I cannot stand my voice, but thank you. All right, so thank you very much for your answers as well, guys. Now let's move on and let's start with speaking, shall we? Now, first, the nitty-gritty of the speaking test. Guys, the speaking test takes 11 to 14 minutes. The face-to-face nature of the IELTS test. And by the way, I've just had a warning on my screen. It said your connection, very momentarily. The quality of my internet went up and down. How are you feeling? Do you still hear me well? Because our connection is at the university is so good. Even it drops just a little bit, I have a warning. This is how reliable my system is. Perfect. You hear me very well. Oh, great. Perfect. Okay. I was just paranoid. All right. Okay. I was saying thank you very much for your messages. Thank you. It's very good to be in direct contact with you. The face-to-face nature of the IELTS speaking test is definitely an advantage for you guys. Well, to be honest, and to be very friendly and frank, it's as close to a real-life situation as a test can possibly get. You are speaking with a person face-to-face. Now, I think that's fairly great. Your speaking will be recorded throughout the test. Don't worry about this. Some people are just excited when they see a recorder on the table, so be prepared. Your speaking will be recorded, no other way around. And this is actually not only to assess your speaking skills, but we want to make sure you get the fairest assessment of your speaking abilities. And the assessment criteria are fluency and accuracy, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. This is how we grade your work, basically. Formal attitude at all. You just need to answer the questions in a casual and a friendly way. And so basically, you will get a score for fluency and accuracy. You'll get a score for vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation, and 4 marks will be averaged, and it will give your final speaking score. And the next slide, please. Oh, yes. Now, guys, I need to charge my computer. Just excuse me for one moment. And this is right here. Perfect. Okay. No problems charge-wise either. And now the speaking test format, right? It says part 1, part 2, part 3, right. Now we're delving into the speaking test even deeper. The IELTS speaking test is divided into 3 sections, as you see right on the slide. Part 1, introduction and general questions. Part 2, long term, or we may refer to it as cue card. And part 3, the analytical discussion part. Now, ladies and gentlemen, part 1, in part 1, questions are quite general, and you should be able to find something to say, even though you're not interested in the topic. Now, the best advice I can give you here is please be prepared to talk about your family, your house, hobbies, holidays, and please give extended answers rather than one word, yes, no, maybe sort of answers, or short answers. I don't know, kinda. Guys, we need more than that. We need data to evaluate, basically, give us more. In part 2, you will be given a task card, which you cannot change, I'm afraid. You need to stick to what you get. Then you will have 1 minute to think, prepare, take notes if you wish, and you will you'll be expected to speak about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. It's not that long. In part 3, finally, by the way, before I start talking about that, your question in part 2 and your questions in part 3 will be linked. However, in part 3, you'll be discussing more abstract aspects of the topic from part 2 with the examiner. Now, let me see. Part 2 must be answered in the tense, which the question is. Well, yeah, definitely. If the question asks you to describe a recent family celebration or a recent celebration that you have attended, it should be in past tense, obviously. If it asks you to describe a valuable possession of yours, it could be actually both in past tense and present tense. If you ask me one of my valuable possessions these days, or not these days, one of my most valuable possessions, I'm going to, oh God, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say my smartphone. I know that it doesn't sound very cool for a teacher and a mother and a 37-year-old lady, but I'm definitely going to go for my phone because I've got everything on my phone. Like, I do not remember any phone numbers, so most of my phone numbers are stored on my phone. My banking applications, my British Council applications, and my university email account, everything is there. So it's the most compact and valuable thing I have, to be honest. And my photographs, of course. So, and if I am asked to talk about when I got this, it should be past tense. But when I'm talking about why I like it, it's in present simple tense. So, could be both. Oh, Alpar, no. You're not choosing the card yourself. You are given a card. Remember what I said. You are given a card which you cannot change, I'm afraid. That's what I said. So you need to stick to what you get. All right. And let's move on, please. Okay, there you are. One of you guys asked some sample questions. I kind of ignored the question for that time, for that moment, because I knew this was coming. All right, let's have a look. Sample IELTS speaking test questions. So these are real exam questions, part one. The examiner asks the candidate about him, herself, his or home, work or studies, and other familiar topics. And the question comes, television. How often do you watch television? Why? Why not? Which television channel do you usually watch? Why? Do you enjoy the advertisements on television? Do you think most programs on television are good? Why? Why not? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I picked that question. And you know what? I picked that question because I do not have a TV at home. And I haven't lived in a house with a TV for the last, I'm 37, I started university at 18, so there you are. For the last 19 years, I haven't had a TV, but I can still answer this question. I can answer how often I watch television, almost never. And which television channel do you watch? Why? I can also answer that. And actually, let me answer this question. Okay, I'm timing myself. I don't watch television at all. I don't have a TV at home. I know this sounds a bit weird, but I hate TV and I hate what TV offers. So I don't own one. And therefore, I don't have a favorite channel or anything, but I have friends. I have people around me. They talk about some excuse me, I got this cold in London. They talk about their favorite TV shows, and sometimes they talk for hours about their favorite shows. And if I'm really curious about one show, I go online and I have a quick look. And that's it, really. That's enough for me. Do you enjoy advertisements on television? Well, when I was a teenager, I used to watch TV at my parents' house, and these advertisements used to bother me because while I was watching a film, I was very concentrated. I was sometimes, even excited, and right in the middle, the advertisements start. I couldn't think of anything more annoying. So I did not enjoy advertisements at the time. And do you think most programs on TV are good? I absolutely do not think that. That's why I don't have a TV. I think most TV programs are just time killers. They just consume your time. And I think there are millions of other ways to waste your time, to spend your time, really. I read a lot. I watch films. I do have a projector at home. I can go on forever, guys, as you see. Now, Karina asks, do you have to be honest when you answer these? Can I make things up? Now, Karina, I'm not going to advise you to be dishonest, but I'm going to say it as properly as I can. Please do not worry about using your imagination. Nobody will Google what you say. We can't. We're not entitled to. We will just evaluate your speaking according to 4 criteria, and you know what these criteria are. Remember, fluency and accuracy, grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. That's all there is. Well, good luck with cheating. And then let's move on, please. And now, guys, here's a sample part 2 and the sample part 3 question. As I've already mentioned, part 2 and part 3 questions are linked. Now, let's see. Part 2, describe a friend of your family you remember from your childhood. You should say who the person was, how your family knew this person, how often this person visited your family, explain why you remember this person. And part 3, what do you think makes someone a good friend to a whole family? Do you think we meet different kinds of friend at different stages of our lives? In what ways are these types of friend different? And how easy is it to make friends with people from a different age group? There you are. So now, having read all sample questions, part 1, part 2, part 3, I think it's fair for me to come to a conclusion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, would you agree with me if I say this? These questions do not require too many strategies, preparation, or prior knowledge. You need to be able to develop ideas and form opinions and talk. Would you agree with me? I mean, yeah, these are quite simple. I mean, I did not pick these because they're simple. I picked these because they are good samples, basically. But there could be a bit harder questions too. For example, last week's IELTS question. Are you ready? Last weekend's. How important is it to be polite in society? How would you understand? How can you determine or define, I think, I can't remember the exact wording, but how can you decide that a person is either polite or impolite? Now, I think it's not an easy question, but again, my point is not how easy or difficult the questions are, but my point is these questions do not require many strategies, any actually, preparation or prior knowledge. You need to be expressing yourselves well, that's it. So don't be afraid, just read a lot of articles, think about certain things, and you would be just fine. And next slide, please. Now, speaking tips, so remember, now I got some notes here, guys, for this slide. Let me check my notes. Right, okay. Guys, as you read the slide, okay, and remember, you will be sent a copy of this recording tomorrow. So if you can't, I don't think you would have a problem, but if you can't read it all, or if you need more time, don't worry. You know, it's clear too. If a person is rude, is rude. Oh, I love that. Absolutely, Diana. Yeah, show some flexibility, considering two opposites of, the pros and cons, or the two opposite sides of the argument. Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I meant, and you got me correctly. Well, Sinam, this webinar will take a little more than an hour, but don't worry if you need to leave. You will be sent a recording tomorrow, so please watch it tomorrow. And if you have any more questions, you can contact the British Council for further information. Have a very good evening. And Nargiza says, it said there is no correct answer now speaking. Most importantly, you should show your language. Absolutely. Absolutely. See you next time, Sinan. Bye. Yes, Nargiza, I totally agree. Now, I was saying, I would like to read something to you guys. Now, this is for speaking. How to reach band 7 for the fluency and coherence criteria. Okay? How to reach, or who reaches band 7 in fluency and coherence. Now, it says, the candidate speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence. The candidate may demonstrate language-related hesitation at times, or some repetition and or self-correction. Now, what does that mean? It means it is okay to make mistakes. Even at band 7 level, we're not expecting you to do the unimaginable. It is okay to make mistakes, and it is okay to correct yourself. People make mistakes while speaking in their native language all the time. This is acceptable. Now, in IELTS, all you need to do is to focus on your communication, speak clearly, and elaborate your answers. In other words, give extended answers and avoid short answers or one-word answers. These are very important. Now, Savinci, what kind of questions did you get? Could you tell us? And what's more, Let me see. And also, speaking from experience, please do not try to memorize large portions of speech. Journalism. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Or with more than 15 questions. Art. Yeah. Okay, I will keep on reading your messages. So I was saying, speaking from experience, please do not try to memorize large portions of speech to repeat during the test, guys. This undoubtedly adds unnecessary stress and sounds super unnatural. We get it straight away. And I do not recommend this approach. And do not try to speak faster in order to sound more fluent. It doesn't work either, I'm afraid. It will result in blocking your communication with your examiner, and it won't sound natural either, obviously. Don't forget, English is the only language you need to communicate in throughout the IELTS test. So I always say to my students, do not use your first language unless it's English. And the last one, let me see, what didn't I mention? Oh, yes. Don't worry if the examiner interrupts. It's okay for the exam to interrupt and direct you to a different direction, question, whatsoever. So it's okay. And one more thing not to worry about, your mistakes. If you make a mistake, just correct it and forget about it. Or if you don't know how to correct it, don't worry. Just, continue and try to explain yourself in other words, in a better way. That's all you need to do. Now, let me see. I just felt as I ride the horse. I succeeded in completing part 1 well, however. Is it good to correct it? Can I get good points? Well, let me read that message again. I think I lost my concentration, or I did not understand it quite well. Okay, I'll come back to that, darling, okay? Now, before we move on, I'm going to say one more thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it isn't the number of grammatical mistakes that matters, don't forget, but how seriously these mistakes block your communication. If you make one grammar mistake, 2, 3 small grammar mistakes, it may not affect your score at all. Focus on your communication, focus on expressing yourself as well as you can. That's all. All right. Now we can move on. All right. I've got some notes for here as well. Okay. So guys, I picked 3 most frequently asked questions. Now, how can candidates improve their speaking? Right. Well. Listening to a wide range of authentic English materials will help you a lot. First, I think it will help you become familiar with more words, phrases, as well as pronunciation features. And these are vitally important while improving languages, not only English, but any language, really. Listening to, say, BBC Radio, lectures on the internet, podcasts on the internet or on your smartphones or other smart gadgets is always a good idea. Start working on subjects that interest you first and then move on with the other ones. And what else? Oh, right. Now, since we all got these smart gadgets, recording yourself while speaking and listening to it later is something I suggest my students. And, while speaking, do your best to apply and practice what you learned from the listenings. And while you're listening to yourself later, pay attention to your fluency, pauses, hesitations, choice of words. And, you know what they say, you shouldn't try this at home. So in contrast to the traditional disclaimers, this is something you can and should try at home. I strongly recommend it to you. And number 2, does the candidate's accent affect the score? A big no. As long as you speak at a natural speed, as long as your examiner understands you easily, you will be perfectly fine. And number 3, can candidates ask clarification questions during the IELTS speaking test? Yes. A big yes. Now, guys, I'm an English teacher. I work at a university and I work for the British Council, and I'm with I'm with students every single day. I understand your concerns and I understand how you feel. I like to give you good news when I can. And here I can give you good news. In part 1, part 2, and part 3, once only, you can ask the examiner to paraphrase the question. Once only, the examiner is allowed and should paraphrase the question again for you. This is perfectly fine. Good news, right? And there will be no points reduced. And next slide, please. Oh God, this cold. Terrible timing. And the nitty-gritty of the listening test. The listening test is designed to assess your ability to understand spoken English. And the test includes 40 questions spread over 4 sections in half an hour, in 30 minutes, in other words, and plus 10 minutes to transfer your time at the end of the test. Bad news, I'm afraid. You will hear each recording once only, which is required during the IELTS test. It doesn't matter, Anahit. You can use the British or the American English. I mean, you can use American version of pronunciation, or you can, and not or, and you can prefer American version of spellings too. But remember, stick to one of those in writing. So you won't lose points. I will actually wait. I cannot wait. Once I've started, let me finish this. Ladies and gentlemen, in writing, if you want to stick to the British spelling, do it. If you say, no, I would like to stick to the American spelling, you're okay to do it as well. But let's take the word, okay, color. If you spell color as this, O-U, in the British way, in one sentence, and then if you spell it like this, then this is inconsistency. Inconsistency. The examiner, in the writing part of the test, the examiner would see it as inconsistency, as a mistake. So stick to one and write in that style. Now, that's if you're accustomed to use to write the word with the U, you can go ahead, darling. Okay. Now, so having said that, actually, it wasn't in the it wasn't a part of the listening. But anyway, having said that, now we can move on. Yeah, you're very fine, Karina. Go with the American spellings, no problems at all. And I hit no problems. I'm glad that you asked that question. So we got it out of the way. Yeah, perfect. Perfect, Karina. I'm glad your question has been answered as well. So great, 2 birds with 1 stone. Right, and now the listening module. Yes, more. The next slide. Right, answers appear in order, variety of task types are used, time, all right, cool. Now, guys, here, I want to begin with some bad news. Bad news. The recordings get harder as you progress through the test. Now, in the listening module only, I'm not talking about the reading module, remember, 4th is the hardest. Part 1 is the easiest. Part 2 is harder than part 2. Part 3 is harder than part 2. And part 4 is the hardest. So, bad news first. Now, good news, right on your way. The good news is the answers appear in order. So you don't need to go back and forth to find the correct answers. A variety of task types are used. Please familiarize yourself with different question types, before you actually take the test. You are given time to read the questions ahead of the recordings. I think this is amazing. You have time to read the questions ahead of the recordings. And as your instructor, as your IELTS trainer tonight, I think it is vitally important to use this given time efficiently. You need to analyze and predict what you will be searching for. With your pencil in your hand, you can underline words, you can circle things, you can take notes if you like to. But but you need to do your best before the recording starts. And remember, after each set of questions, you're also given time to check your answers again. So when you're listening to a recording, the only thing you should focus on is to find the correct answer. Not the spelling, just what you hear, write it down. Don't worry about the spelling. Don't worry about the capitalization yet. You will be given extra time at the end of each recording to check your answers before the next set of questions come. So that's plenty of time. There is you cannot highlight. You cannot use highlight pens, by the way. So you will be using your pencil only. Oh yes, with your pencil. And there's a joke. Answers written, perfect. Oh, Skya, have I said answers? Oh, I might have said something wrong. I just came from London. I have a cold. I'm sorry if I made a silly mistake. Now, let's see. Is it okay if you make spelling mistakes? Oh, you wish, darling. No, it's not okay. If you make spelling mistakes, if you make capitalization mistakes, that's too bad. You will lose the whole question. So sorry about that. And then, so the preparation time, that's okay, yeah. You should use this extra time efficiently, I said. And what else to be mentioned in this slide? Do we have any notes? No, that's all. At the end of the test, remember, you will transfer everything to an answer sheet. So while you're transferring your answers, guys, you shouldn't make any spelling or capitalization mistakes now. That is very important. Oh, yes, definitely it is. And yes, let's go on, please. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Now, listening tips to remember. I'm going through my notes. Yes, okay, these things I should not forget to say. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first, Aliona. Yes, it is okay to write all the answers, all the words in capital letters in the listening test. Yes, it is. And now, listening tips to remember. Guys, look for keywords, underline or circle them when you first look at the questions. Make sure you understand what types of answers are needed. Now, this is very important. When you're given extra time to read the questions ahead of the recordings, you should do your best to predict as much as you can. Is it a number, a day, a name, an adjective you're going to catch? Try to predict this. And now I'm looking at my notes. Be aware of distractors. Just because you hear something for the first time, it doesn't have to be the correct answer. When you're listening, the speaker might go back, reverse and change the answer. So please be careful. And I think it's important to remind you that there are no penalties for wrong answers. Oh, right. Now, that's a good question. I will answer that. And I was saying, I think it's important to remind you that there are no penalties for wrong answers. In many exam systems, There are like, 3 wrong answers, take away 1 correct answer sort of thing. And, it does not exist in English. So it doesn't exist in the IELTS exam. So I think you should know this, and you should attempt all the questions. You shouldn't leave any answers blank, basically. Okay, and as 1, 2, 3, 4, is it the 5th? Yes, it's the 4th item on the list. Spelling and capitalization both count. If you misspell a word, the whole question will be incorrect. So please be careful with your spelling and capitalization. And let's remember, it's written wrong. Do we lose the point? Yes, definitely, Aranda. Yeah. And as to Armenia's question, why would you put, like, I've seen it, but I would never put, and I lived in many different countries. Have I ever seen colons in time? I don't know. Yeah, guys, in the UK, we write with a dot, with a full stop, not with colons, basically. So let me write. So this is 2:30. But if you write, the thing is, like, if you write with columns like this, I don't think it would be a mistake. No, because it's clear that it's time. And if the answer, yeah, it's okay. Oh, you do write that. Wow. And dates. Okay. All right, guys, let's go to the next question. It is confusing, by the way, yeah. And let's go. Oh, it was a mistake on IELTS prep application. Wow. Now, I will double check this. Okay, Nat, I will definitely, Natalia, I will definitely check that. Yeah, that is interesting. Thanks. No, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. It's okay to write everything in capitals in the listening test, yes. Next slide, please. The listening FAQs this time. Now, the first question is, how can candidates improve their listening skills? Ladies and gentlemen, it's extremely important to practice listening to a wide range of authentic resources. That might include not only TV series, but also podcasts, educational videos, lectures, and documentaries. These might come very handy, especially in part 3 and part 4 of the IELTS test, obviously. And I lost my screen for some reason. Now it's back. Perfect. And make sure you aim for different materials with different accents. I'm afraid there is no substitute for good practice. I mean, whatever you listen to, as long as it's authentic, as long as it's, some kind of educational, I think it's okay. If you have a smartphone or a tablet, you may download many free British Council applications, Learn English podcasts, audio and video. That's one of my favorite applications. Audio and video, the name of the application is, are very popular among my students. And you might find lots of useful stuff on learnenglish.britishcouncil.org, and obviously takeielts.britishcouncil.org. So please benefit from these websites. And yes, my colleagues have just sent me a message. Absolutely, yes. And the last one is, are spelling and capitalization important in the IELTS test? A big yes. We've already covered that. And now let's move on. Let's see. Now the reading module. Again, first the facts and figures. The reading test includes 40 questions spread over 3 articles, and you've got 1 hour to answer these 40 questions about 3 articles. Now, unlike the listening test, ladies and gentlemen, be very careful. Unlike the listening test, you will not be given extra time to transfer your answers. So you have to transfer your answers as you answer the questions. And your answers must be written in pencil only. This applies to the listening test as well. And let me see. I think I've covered that. Pencil only. Yes, all covered. Move on, please. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to start. Well, you have the slide there. I'm going to talk about something. Guys, if you read newspapers, if you read magazines, IELTS reading texts should not be a problem. But as long as you read newspaper articles and serious, cool magazine articles, as long as you do this, I would like to give you an example. It's from Cambridge Past Papers, Book 9. And I think it's test 1, reading text 1. It's called Chronicle of Timekeeping. This text in particular talks about how people measured time throughout history, how the way they measured time changed after the invention of artificial light and after the advent of the mechanical clock. Now, this article could easily be on a National Geographic website or in one of these similar magazines. So I strongly recommend you to read newspaper articles. Reading passages are really interesting. I totally agree, actually. But you are taking this exam for a specific purpose. I know you're not focusing on how interesting the texts are. You're focusing on your score, I understand. But try to enjoy it and maybe things will change. I personally suggest my students to read, 6 articles a week. And the ones who do this, they always score what they want to score. And like this, in this article, I mean, the one about timekeeping, the Chronicle of Timekeeping, I bet most of us would be interested in reading this article in our daily lives, in our native languages. So if you read periodicals, newspapers, magazines, journals, in English, the articles you see will be very similar to what you will be reading in IELTS. And as you know, you've got 1 hour to answer 40 questions on 3 texts. And when you do the maths, 20 minutes per text. You have to organize your time very well. I'm talking about cool newspaper articles, Amelia. Go on theguardian.com and, theguardian.com, theguardian.co.uk, and it's quite good. For example, now I'm going to send you a few examples, and I think they're quite cool. Now, for example, all right, it will be on your way very, very soon. I don't want to lose time right now, but I've got 2 articles I read today on the newspaper, on the plane, and I loved it. I'm going to share those with you. And so when we do the maths, you have 20 minutes per text, and you don't have to organize. You have to organize your time very well to complete one text and reading one text and questions in 20 minutes. When I say reading, I don't actually mean reading. I mean skimming and scanning. We'll talk about these skills in a bit. And remember, you have no extra time at the end of the test to transfer your answers. So these 20 minutes actually includes skimming and scanning of the text, answering and transferring these questions. So be careful. Now let's move on, please. And some tips for the reading, guys. Now, Before you take the test, before you take the test, I believe you need to familiarize yourself with different task types. You should also practice reading skills. Now, these skills I've just mentioned, skimming and scanning. Now, since you've got only 20 minutes per text, you do not have to have a lot of time to read the text intensively, thoroughly, and then answer the questions. So you need these two skills to get through, actually. Skimming means looking over an article or paragraph to identify the key themes or general ideas. This includes paying attention to title, if there are any subtitles, keywords, and topic sentences. I suggest, this is my tactic, if you think it's a tactic, I don't know. I suggest you read the first and the last sentence, well, the title and the subtitles first, if there are any. Then the first and the last sentence of each paragraph. And as you do this, you can underline words, circle sentences, or take notes. Then look at the questions with specific purpose. Be clear about what you're looking for, and then scanning. Scanning is when you're looking for specific information, basically. And after you read the questions, you will be scanning the text for answers, benefiting from your notes, the underlined or circled portions of the text. And just like the listening test, there are no penalties for incorrect answers. So again, I suggest you attempt all the questions. And there will always be a clock, an actual one or a digital one, but there will always be a clock in the test room, guys. I've just read your messages. Sorry, I was a bit late. Well, actually, someone else answered. Oh, well, Alper, I think, answered the question. And then no time for answers, not leaving. Yes, this has got all done, all covered. So we can easily move on to the next slide. Now, reading FAQs, ladies and gentlemen. The first one is, how can candidates improve their reading skills? Well, I wish I had a magic wand, but I don't. However, I do know how you can improve your reading skills. Now, if you won't like the idea, maybe, by reading. Exactly. I was going to say, read as much as you can. You are the star of the show, by the way. Thank you for your contribution. You're amazing. Read newspapers, read magazines and journals. The more variety, I hate to say this, but the more variety, the better for sure. Remember what I said? I advise my students at the university to read 2 articles on environmental issues, 2 articles on technology, and 2 articles of their own choice every week. If you read 6 to 7 articles every week, you will see how much you improve in such a short time. Absolutely. Economics, medical issues, and environmental issues. Absolutely. I mean, technology too, but very, very important. Yeah. Number 2, can candidates use colored pencils during the IELTS reading test? No, a big no. Pencil only. How can candidates skim and scan efficiently? Well, we've just talked about this. Reading the first and the last sentence of each paragraph to determine the theme of the paragraph. Make notes as you do this. Then reading the questions and then scanning is, I think, a quite good, quite efficient way of skimming and scanning. Let's move on, please. Oh, Alina, about true, false, not given questions. Now, I run a webinar on reading and writing only, specifically designed. And in this sort of webinars, we have some sample questions. Please follow us and join one of those webinars. I think it will be useful. This is just, tips for success, like quick tips for success. So I don't have any sample questions ready. And true, false, not given. Yes, no, not given. I know it's a pain in the neck. And I know that you would like to get more information on that. Now, writing, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in this part, we got two different modules, and I'm going to mention both, obviously. Let's move on, please. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, the writing test is divided into two parts, as you all know, and you're expected to answer both of these questions in 1 hour. They're not optional. No, you wish, but no. Now, task 1 differs depending on the module you're taking. I'm going to start with the academic one since there were more academic test takers tonight. In the academic module, you need to analyze a diagram. Applicants, you guys, should identify 3 to 4 significant points in the diagram or in each diagram if there's more than one piece. You may need to make, now, Karina, thank you very much for that question. In the writing part, guys, in the writing test, you may use a pencil, a pen. You may use a pen if you want. But in listening and reading, no, no, no. So, having said that, in task 1, exactly, I agree with you. Pencil is easy, but some people are just used to writing with a pen. So, and in task 1, for academic test takers I'm talking to, you may need to compare data as well. In the general training module, however, there is a letter writing of at least 150 words. Oh, I forgot to say, 150 word, minimum 150 word count applies to both academic test takers and general test takers. So everyone, you guys, all of you will write at least 150 words in task 1. Now, can candidate lose points? Yes, of course. Yes, yes, yes. I suggest you do not take a risk and hit 150 word count in task 1. Now, guys, if you don't know, or if you don't want to just, I'm going to check one thing online very quickly. Wait. IELTS writing. British Council. Where is British Council? Take IELTS reading test. British Council PDF, exactly. IELTS.org, perfect. Now, guys, if you don't want to count the number of words you write in the exam, I suggest, go back. Yeah, I suggest you go on this link and download the sample answer sheet for task 1 and on this one, download the sample answer sheet for task 2. There you are. So when you're practicing at home, practice on these papers, and you would know how many lines in your own handwriting, how many lines you need to reach 150 and 250. I'm glad you like my tip. Wow. So absolutely. So guys, write +1 line in the exam, you're safe. You don't need to count word by word. This is something really useful, I think. Okay, absolutely, Irina, sure. And now some cool, what's that? PDFs will come as well. Right, I'm going to download a few. I want you to be able to read a lot of cool stuff. And for that, your IELTS instructor is working very hard here. And I'm downloading multiple things. And I'll definitely send these along once they're in. Now, oh yes, perfect. They're all here. Lovely, lovely. Okay, Great. So that's done. That's done. Right. Okay. Now let's go back, and I'll be doing it forward. Okay, guys. And yes, the they're not articles, darling. They're articles. And the articles count as words usually. Absolutely. A, N, the, one, to, of, in. I mean, prepositions as well. No problem. So prepositions, articles, numbers, they all count as words. And in the general training, I said there was a letter writing of 150 words, and in the question, the tone of the letter will be determined. I mean, whether you need to write a friendly and informal letter, or or if it's supposed to be a formal letter, it will all be said in the question. So you need to follow you need to address all parts of the question, and of course, do what the question says. Now, for both general training and an academic task too, guys, you are expected to write at least 250 words. And Alina, that's a very good question. I'll definitely come back to that. Now, you're expected to write at least 250 words, as I said. And yes, here's a tip. Like in my notes, it says, must mention this. Guys, task 2 contributes twice as much as task 1. Task 2 contributes twice as much as task 1 to the overall writing score. So if you're targeting for high scores, and most of you are, as far as I'm concerned, you need to do task 2 very well. About the word count, we give you a minimum word count. I think if you want to write 320 words, or, I mean, yeah, 320, 330 words, it depends on you, really, because remember, your time is limited, and we believe these essay tasks, essay topics, can easily be managed within 40 minutes and with around 250 words. So the more you write doesn't necessarily mean the better. But I would say up to 300. I think it's cool. More than 300, if there is no repetition, because I have read during all these years at the British Council, I've read many over 300 word essays. Some were good, some were full of repetition and off-topic sentences. So here, the challenge is not to write more, but the challenge is not to repeat yourself and to stick to the topic, not to be off-topic, and important to respond, to be able to respond directly to the question. Find 2 different examples directly related to the question and writing those. So that's the main challenge. Don't worry about writing 293, 310. The main challenge is to be simple, to be direct. I think you got me, right? You know what I'm talking about. Because Alina, I don't have a sample essay here. If you say, Civil, this is my essay, and it's 320 words, I wouldn't be bothered by the word count first. I would first read the article, read your essay, then say, look, there are too many words, and look, these are all repetition. Or if there is no repetition, there is no off-topic sentences, then you should be fine. Could you please read the questions you're going to answer aloud before? Oh, all right. Okay, Natalia, got it. Sure. Alina, no worries. Now, it is allowed to spend, for example, 25 minutes in task 1 and 35 minutes in task 2. Yes, Aranda, you will have 1 hour for the writing task for both questions. Nobody will say, hey, Aranda, time for task 1 is up. Now time for task 2. No, you will be managing your own time. And most of my engineering students at university, for them, task 1 is a piece of cake. They spend 13, 14 minutes, I mean, less than 15 minutes on task 1. But for them, it's more of a big challenge. I mean, task 2 is of more of a big challenge. So they want to spend more time on task 2 and they do it. So it depends on you. If you are not as good at numbers, you might need a bit more time on task 1, but then you need to make sure you compensate there's time loss in quotation marks. You will make up for it in task 2. Yes, prepositions and articles are counted as words, darling. Absolutely. All right. Okay, and then what else? What else? Now, to master task 1 and task 2, guys, make sure, now this is for task 1 actually, let me say. For task 1, make sure you address to all parts of the question. And in task 2, make sure you develop your ideas and support them with examples. Now here, the most common mistake is, there's an introduction in task 2. And then there's a body paragraph. One aspect of the issue is discussed. And in the second paragraph, it's the same thing. The same theme, the same topic, written in different sentences. No, no, no. Your 2 body paragraphs must be independent. They must be discussing different aspects of the issue. They must have 2 different central ideas, central themes, basically. Please be careful. Let's move on, please. Now, yes, assessment. I knew this was coming. Okay, so the writing assessment. How do we assess your writing? Task achievement for task 1, task response for task 2, cohesion and coherence, vocabulary, and last but not least, grammar range and accuracy. Yes, don't give your own opinion. Don't use I, we. Don't use as you can see, that sort of things in task 1 in academic module. Now, I think on the slide, number 1, 3, and 4 are pretty straightforward. You probably know what it's talking about. I would like to elaborate the second one, cohesion and coherence. Now, guys, this means that your essay is logically organized and has a clear structure with an introduction, at least 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And for task 1, for academic test takers, an introduction, an oral paragraph, and then 1 or 2 other detailed paragraphs. Now, it should have your articles, your essays should have clear structures. Then remember, your essay should be divided into paragraphs, with each paragraph having a clear central idea. Can you give advice? I'm trying to read the questions. Okay, I will come back to those, guys. And remember, your body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 should be talking about different ideas, different aspects of the issue. Please remember that. Now, what is the best way to correct my mistakes? Cross them out or use an eraser? It's up to you. You can cross them out or erase them, as long as your handwriting is legible, as long as the essay looks neat and easy to read, that's perfectly fine. Can you give advice for agree, disagree? I cannot give advice for agree, disagree because, okay, why? Well, actually, no, I can give an example, but what I mean is, it depends on what you want to write. or what you know about the topic. If you say, oh, Civil, I can just simply can't disagree with this. I cannot come up with two different ideas. Then, in that case, you have to agree, but make sure you find two different arguments to support your two body paragraphs. So I don't understand these percentages, but yeah, no dictionaries, no. So rather than percentages, it depends on how you believe you can convince the reader. Because at the end of the day, your writing should give me this message. Wow, this person has a great command of English. And she can use a lot of different phrases, a lot of different words correctly, accurately. And there are many different sentence structures combined with conjunctions and so on. You just need to make me say this. So be my guest, and you make it's your call. You make the decision, but I care about the result. Should examples be general? Examples should be convincing. I don't know how general or not general they are, but they should be convincing. They should be very related to the topic, to the question. And that's all. Let's move on, please. Okay, writing tips to remember. Now, guys, you have the list there. I'm going to talk about something now. I would like to introduce you the concept of power writing. Power as in strength, Power. Now, power. In power writing, P stands for plan, O stands for organizing, W stands for writing, E stands for evaluating, and R stands for revising. Plan, organize, write, evaluate, and revise. Now, I want you to make a mini plan, super mini. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes, definitely not, maybe not even more than 1.5. You just need to make sure, you just need to come up with 2 examples. I mean, first you need to tell yourself, okay, what is my opinion on this issue? What will I argue about? What will I defend? What will I say? Then, once you made up your mind, okay, how can I support this with 2 examples? What are these 2 examples? You need to think about that. So this is planning. Then you need to organize yourself and then go. I think this plan, organize, write, evaluate, revise can be a map for you. Analyze the question, identify the different parts, clarify the specific topic, understand the complete requirements, and by doing these, you will produce great work. And look at the last item, word count is important. So 150 for task 1 and 250 for task 2. Remember that. Let's move on, please. Now, here's a sample task 2 question. Let me see. There we are. Okay, guys. Now, please take a moment to read. Countries are becoming more and more similar because people are able to buy the same products anywhere in the world. Do you think it's a positive or negative development? Now, for this question, you don't need to have personal first-hand experience. Okay, so I'm using the same, yes, I was using the same network on my phone. My phone is definitely in silent mode, but my computer started ringing. Sorry about that. Yeah, so for this question, guys, you don't need to have personal first-hand experience. You have read, if you have read, heard something, you may refer to those. That's perfectly fine. As long as you mention relevant things, you are safe. Okay? And let me see. What? Oh, title. Thank you very much. That was my next question to all of you. Guys, do we need titles for task 1 and task 2? That's a practical question. So please answer. No, Bara. No, darling. No, no, no. You do not need a title for the essays, guys. It's not necessary. No, no, no. Yes, Matteo from Albania, you need an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion for task 2. And remember, for task 1, you don't need a conclusion because remember, the general training module takers, you guys are taking, you guys are writing a letter. So, you don't need one. And for the academic test takers, you're writing an analysis, an analytical report. There is no conclusion necessary. All right, now let's move on. Writing frequently asked questions, right? How can candidates improve their writing skills? Now, again, I wish I had a magic wand, but I don't. However, of course I have an answer. Guys, I think here you need to be reading model answers. First, read good, cool model answers. And many model answers can be found in Road to IELTS, the official IELTS materials by the British Council. See and analyze those. I think they're very useful. And once you've seen these good samples, then after reading those, start producing your own work. I think it will be much, much better. I think reading and writing are quite attached to one another, don't you think? The more you read, the more sentence structures, words, uses of different words you will be seeing. And the more you read, the more likely it is for you to adopt these into your own handwriting, into your own writing, basically, not handwriting, sorry, into your own writing. Now, number 2, describe the successful task 1 essay. Now, for the academic test takers, first, you need to write what you see in the chart. However, you cannot copy words from the exam question or from the titles of the illustrations. This will result in lower marks. So you should be able to paraphrase them. So that's what you start with. You write what you see in the chart, in the graph. You're paraphrasing the question, in other words. Then analyze. Look for most significant features. Try to find the superlatives, the highest, the lowest, the biggest, the largest, the most significant rise, etc. Write an overview. Don't forget to separate your paragraphs. Show a range of vocabulary and consider tenses that are relevant. You do not need a conclusion for task 1, remember. And for the general training test takers, you need to address to all parts of the question and answer all the questions in your letter. And make sure you understand the tone of the letter and you write according to that. Describe a successful task 2 essay. We've just done it. At least 4 paragraphs. No. ITEC, if you're taking a UKVI exam, and if you select computer version, you may be typing. But if it's the standard IELTS exam, you are writing, darling. Okay? And so in the second part, in the second task, you're writing at least 4 paragraphs, an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And you do not forget to support your argument with examples. All right. That's number 4. Okay, cool. Now let's move on, please. Wow, Karina, I've just read that. Mock exam, I got points removed for not having a title. Oh, you can definitely do that. Yeah. Oh, so Savinj, have a very good evening. Thank you very much for all your contributions. Oh, yes, they will record this webinar, don't worry. Now, test day do's and don'ts. You take care too. Let's move on, please. Now, the very first thing to do, guys, check the details of your exam and your exam center when you book your exam. Please, please. You wouldn't like to go to the wrong place. Now, arrive in good time. And you can only take pen, pencil, eraser, and your ID with you. I'm afraid your super smartphones and super smart gadgets aren't coming into the exam room with you, nor a dictionary, you know. So you were taking, remember, pen, pencil, eraser, and ID. That's all. Follow the instructions. Oh, pencil sharpen is okay if you need that. Oh, Yamilia, I'm glad you enjoyed the show. And Diana, bye-bye. Oh, sorry, Diana is not going. Sorry. So they're saying goodbye to Sivinj. Okay. All right. And so follow the instructions very carefully. Remember, IELTS is not only a test of English, but we test your understanding of English instructions as well. So instructions. And check details, ID, All right, that's it. Here, all done. Let's move on, please. You can take more than one pencil. Absolutely. Pencil sharpen is okay. And now, guys, let's see. We all know, at the British Council, we all know that preparation materials are very important to our candidates. Now, once you have registered your IELTS exam with the British Council, you will have access to 30 hours of free training, which is called Road to IELTS. Now, that's very important. On top of that, I've got actually two websites to offer to you: britishcouncil.org/take IELTS and learnenglish.britishcouncil.org. You may find a great wide range of materials there. And as to mobile applications, IELTS Word Power is exclusively for IELTS. And I think you should download and start using it. Besides that, when you type British Council on your app store, app stores, you will have lots of free applications. Audio and video is something that I usually use, even in my lessons. IELTS like videos are there, and I think they're cool. And there are many podcasts that you can download. So I think you should make great use of those, ladies and gentlemen. And now, that is the very end slide. And we're almost there. And let's see. So I was going to say, I was reading the messages. I'm going to be here for another 2, 3, 4, I don't know, for some more time to answer all your questions. Audio and video is an app, I take. Yeah, the name is Audio and Video. Katerina, I'm glad you were here and I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Thank you for being here. Yes, Matteo. 5 universities, 5 schools. My name is Seville. And let's see, I'm trying to make sure I understand and I answer all your questions. Now, Lena, there is a very long question. Let me read that again. Stop preparing IELTS. Last scores are 667. improving your score from 6 to 6.5. You just need to spend 2-3 months, maybe going to a course or even self-study. But Alina, like from here, I don't know your level, your background. It's very hard to give you advice. I'm so sorry. On the table, you may have clear water bottles, guys. That's all. You cannot have a variety of drinks or whatsoever. Oh, I'm really glad I hear all these beautiful messages. We got many American teachers working at the university and at American colleges here in Istanbul. And also, I was in London last week and I was at an American university. And, well, teachers always score 9. Who am I to give an average score to an American citizen? Guys, I'm not an arrogant person. Oh, yes, headphones. No, Julie, all the candidates hear all the recordings at the same time, together, not individually. And Armenia, your paper will be checked in your country. And if you are from Armenia, British Council Armenia office, I've got great friends and they'll be doing their job very well, I'm sure. Emilia, thank you for being here. It was great, really, tonight. And that's my thank you note. All right, my very last slide. Well, it depends on how many mistakes you make, how many spelling mistakes you make, really. There is no limit. The limit is the sky if you make thousands of mistakes. Mechanical pencils are okay. Absolutely, Alper. Yeah, I love those. I don't like writing with a pencil, actually. I love these mechanical ones better. Lovely. So, guys, I thank every one of you for being here. It was almost, more than 1.5 hours. And everything was great. Have an amazing evening. Hope to see you soon. Bye bye.